This video is sponsored by Squarespace. So there I was, on a Sunday evening, playing a game of ending soonest online. Go to your favourite auction site of choice, put in camera or Fujifilm or Micro Four Thirds, and then change the settings to ending soonest, and you'll see a wide selection of things that have a couple of minutes left on the auction, and then you can give yourself a lovely little panic trying to decide if you want to buy anything impulsively. It's the best of games and the worst of games. All that to say, I took a punt on this little dude, the Fujifilm X-A20. Yes, I did, because it's a beautiful colour and it's tiny, and I thought it'd be a perfect addition to my tiny camera series. I got this for around £200 used, and for an APS-C sensor in a pretty colour, in relatively decent condition, I thought, let's take a punt. I think it's safe to say that this line of Fujifilm cameras is probably the most forgotten, abandoned, and least well thought of in the Fujifilm lineup. And the reason for that being is the type of sensor that this camera uses. It has an APS-C sensor and the usual Fujifilm X mount, which is great, but it doesn't have the fancy pants X-Trans sensor that some of the more iconic Fujifilm cameras have, like the X100 series, for example. So what are the benefits of an X-Trans sensor? If you're not aware, I'll just go through it quickly. Well, one of the main benefits is you can reduce moire in your images without having a low pass filter, so the images remain sharp, but you don't get moire. What is moire, I hear you ask? Well, when the suits and the ties, they are all stripy lies, that's a moire, aka a photographer's worst nightmare. If you've ever seen this sort of phenomenon in your image, that's moire. It's a pain in the backside. And the X-Trans sensor means that will never be an issue. All the benefits of the X-Trans sensor are more natural filmic looking grain and really pleasing natural colours. If you have more X-Trans nerdiness to share, then do let us know in the comments. The Fujifilm X-A20 has your basic bitch Bayer sensor. You know, if you are into the X-Trans land and you really want the cool colours and you don't like fighting with moire, of course this is going to be a downgrade, but it has a very good APS-C sensor, and I've found pretty much every Fujifilm at every budget that I've used so far has been amazing in terms of dynamic range and being able to pull all those details back out of the raw file, so you don't lose any of that capability, even though it's a more affordable option. Another reason that this camera was frowned upon in the Fujifilm community is you do get fewer film simulations in this. You still get a few, you still get a couple of my favourite ones like Velvia, but you don't get the never-ending list that you will get in the more high-end Fujifilms. You also cannot customise and save recipes either. So you can use the presets built in and get some really nice looking JPEGs, but the customisation that a lot of Fujifilm enthusiasts love is quite stripped down in this camera. Negatives aside, taking this into account just as a general camera rather than a Fujifilm camera, there's a lot to love for 200 quid. We have a built-in flash, and we also have a flippy up screen, which is a touch screen. One thing that I really value on smaller form factor cameras is having a 2-dial setup. So there's no spinny wheel of doom on the back. You do have 2 fully functioning dials to change your settings. Even if one of them is quite tiny, it still counts and still works great. It's also a push-inable button as well, so you can save different custom modes to that. I think I have mine to magnification because the autofocus on this is not the best I've ever used, which I shall talk about now. Fujifilm cameras have recently made the shift to phase detect autofocus, but there are a fair few contrast-based autofocus system cameras in the lineup, and this is one of them. On Micro Four Thirds, I am no stranger to the contrast-based autofocus system. It is traditionally less accurate, less fast, and it will be less sticky on your subject as well. On Micro Four Thirds, because you have a smaller sensor to begin with, there's less depth of field for the camera to hunt through to begin with, so it's not too slow. Because we have a APS-C sensor in this camera, which gives you a deeper depth of field, I think even though it uses the same contrast-based autofocus system, there's more room for it to get lost in it if that makes any sense. So I do think it's a little bit more sluggish than most Micro Four Thirds cameras, but still very usable in a day-to-day scenario. Just don't be expecting miracles with the autofocus. I think also to keep the cost down for this range of cameras, the build quality is a little bit more on the plastic side compared to some of the more premium Fujifilms, but I think that's what we expect in most camera ranges. There will be sacrifices along the way. And I have to say, I really like the form factor and the style. It's got a nice grip, it feels good in the hand. I really like the texture. I like that you can get it in different colours. And it certainly doesn't feel flimsy by any stretch of the imagination. Just don't go into it expecting it to feel like a vintage camera or a really high-end Fujifilm camera because it's like 200 quid. So what lenses have I paired with this beauty? I have got this really smart TT Artisan's lens. It's a 27mm f2.8, which is dead weird. It's a fully autofocus lens. It's quite pancakey and quite small, and you do have a dedicated aperture ring which works completely fine with the camera as well. So depending on the lens that you pair with it, you can get more of a traditional tactile experience like you would see in like an X100 camera, for example. You do have a physical aperture dial. You do have 2 dials on the camera to change your other settings. So in terms of an everyday carry and street photography and being able to change your settings quickly without going into the menus, I think it works really well. Lens dependent. Speaking of those menus, I'm not the biggest fan of the Fujifilm menus, but as I say, if you can keep your main settings outside of the menus and onto the dials and the function buttons, it's well easy to navigate. The only problems that I've had in the past is if I've used like Fujifilm compact cameras where you lose out on the tactile dials and you lose out on the extra buttons and you do get stuck in the menus, but that is not the case with this camera, thankfully. So I've been wanting to talk about this for a hot minute, but this seems like a perfect camera to demonstrate it. I think the used market is very volatile because there's only a finite amount of used cameras. Unless the camera was massively popular, there's not many used items for any given camera. So it can appear that videos like this or blog posts or anything, like something can go viral on TikTok, anything like that can really shift the price of a camera. There's 2 sides to this, right? One is if you find a camera that is a bargain, like I happened upon this one and it was 200 quid and I'm like, that's a steal. That could mean 1, the camera is not very good and the price is correct. Or it just means that no one's shone a light on it yet and no one's hyped it up recently and it is genuinely a bargain. Just remember, if you are shopping for used cameras, make sure you're paying an appropriate price for what you're getting because these are older cameras now. And just because some idiot in her pajamas has said that X, Y, and Z is amazing doesn't mean it's suddenly worth £300 more. I also wanted to bring this up to empower you to go on the hunt and find some interesting cameras because there are dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of used cameras that are very, very interesting. Be the person that shines a light on it. Go find your own bargains and see what is good. Now, not every camera is good, but sometimes you can find gems. I hope that makes sense. So do I think that this Fujifilm, in particular, the X-A20, is worth a consideration? I think it's all dependent on the price because £200 or there and thereabouts gets you a 16 megapixel APS-C sensor. It gets you a camera that can have all of the amazing X mount lenses, whether that's official or third party like this TT Artisan lens. It can give you a stylish everyday carry camera that is in a small form factor, and you can get a lot of really important features like JPEG simulations and flippy screens and all that good stuff. But it really is price dependent. I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that this is on par with some of the higher Fujifilm cameras, but if you do want something cheap that's fun that you can go out and have fun with and carry around with you every day, it's a great little option. Let me just quickly talk about the sponsor of this video, which is Squarespace. I've used Squarespace as my website provider for many, many moons now, and I just find them to be wonderful, easy to use, and really affordable as well. If you are looking to own your own corner of the internet, you cannot find better than what they offer. Even if you just want to start a blog and start really simple, you can do that. And if you've got no design or website building expertise like moi, I've got no idea, Squarespace Squarespace make it super duper easy for you. They have AI template builders, which will help you design everything that you need on your website, down to your color scheme and your font pairings and all of those design elements that are way over my head. They make really gorgeous looking websites very, very easily. So go forth and build your website, and when you are ready to launch, you can use this URL or the code micro4nerds to get a cheeky little discount on your first purchase. And thank you as always to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video and you want to stick in the Fujifilm land, check out my X106 rant/review here, and perhaps it will show you that the grass isn't always greener. Maybe you might watch that and go, do you know what, I'll get myself a bargain. Or maybe you'll watch that and go, do you know what, all the extra features are well worth the extra money. You decide.